Hello, this is Natsuya, and today we're going to talk about having ADHD and autism, Asperger's specifically, and routines. And so I want to start a little bit to talk about. So routines are something that are common in the autistic world, but having ADHD also makes it so the routine is not going to get done. And so it makes it very difficult that if a routine is too structured, that I'm just not going to want to do it. For example, I've had to fold a whole bunch of shirts that were in my closet thrown on the floor for weeks now. And it wasn't until, I don't know, 30 minutes ago that I actually did it. They were just piled up on the floor, and it wasn't until, I was looking for a specific shirt today, like this one here, my indigenous, remember indigenous women who are lost and missing, and murdered, and that was something that I wanted to find. And I did find it, luckily, but I had to sift through a whole bunch of stuff to do that today. And so that was quite frustrating. And so it got me to a point that I was like, okay, you're going to need to deal with this laundry thing. And so what I want to talk today is about routines. And so as somebody with Asperger's, autism, and ADHD, the routine can't be too strict. It has to be just right. So it has to have a certain level of flexibility, and it has to also be something that is structured enough that I can get through it, and has the flexibility that if I get into like an ADHD hyperfocus, that's not going to throw off my whole day. And so one way to do this, and again, I don't talk about things that I don't do myself. I have a bunch of whiteboards that I use with different things on them. One of them is a calendar. One of them is a task that I do for the day. Another one has long-term tasks that I plan. And a fourth one has things of different meetings that are coming up. And it also includes a list of things I have to buy at the store, like food. Okay, so those are some of the routines that I have. I use these boards. They're right in the middle of the kitchen, and they're easy for me to find because I have to walk past them every time I walk into the kitchen, so I can see it just relatively right there. It's relatively easy to see. Okay? And so now that I had my little clothes folding experience today, I definitely am going to be using the rest of this afternoon to plan my routines for the day. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to walk through how I'm going to do that. And so there's some criteria that I just wanted to say, that having ADHD as well as autism, you have to be flexible, because you can get into a hyperfocus, or you can get into an overstimulated, or if you're having a down day because you didn't sleep and then you're sleeping in the middle of the day, that can throw off a whole routine. And so there needs to be allowances for that so that you can still plan. And so one way to do that is to create shorter routines so that you have many routines through the day. So you would usually start with a routine in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one at the end of the day. But then you can have routines around meals, you can have routines around laundry, you can have routines around doing dishes, you can have routines around, I'm a writer, I'm also a manga artist, so I have routines around that. And then you can have a routine around work as well. And so right now I'm in a day program, so my days, on some of those days, I have to do the day program, and so that is part of my routine. So it's part of a day program specific routine, which includes the call in the morning, the the getting there, the actual being in the group, and then coming home, and that is at a specific time. But there's different things that are involved there, like the phone call for the driver and the things like that that have to go, like where you're going to sit. There's part of the routine in the day program is that you get breakfast, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of important, and definitely something that you want to plan for, because that's a big chunk of your day in the morning. And so that day program routine is part of the morning routine. So it's a separate routine. It comes after the start of the day routine. So the start of the day routine was say getting up, taking a shower, getting dressed, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, things like that, getting ready to go for the day. It also includes the morning call from the driver, who is going to come pick you up, and that's also important because you need to make sure that you have that you're there for the call. And so it's very important for me that I usually will wait for the call first before I'll start my morning routine. And so that is part of the morning routine for day program. Now, once day program goes away, then you can have the flexibility because you just remove the day program routine from the day because you're not going to be doing that anymore. And then you can potentially change it and insert like a work routine. Like if you're going to go for a regular, job in the morning, you can put that in there for the routine. Okay? So that's kind of this. So you need to make sure, so the first one is you want to make sure it's just right for you and that it's flexible. And so by having shorter step routines that will allow you to mix and match and move them. So if you have routine 1, 2, 3, and it's a different day, you can maybe move routine 3 to the above routine 2 after the start of your day routine. So on days that I don't have day program, the day program routine is not on that day. And so I don't have to worry about that. So that's just taken off of that day. And that's written on one of my boards, whatever your routines for the day. Okay? So it needs to be flexible because of the ADHD. So your autism wants to lock in a routine that's set, and with the time periods and time frames. Okay, but the ADHD is going to throw you off, like if you get into a rumination or overthinking, or you get into a hyperfocus and you're like playing video games for 20 hours, or you're not sleeping and spending the entire night drawing pictures, for your comic book or your manga, then, that's going to throw off your routine. So that is a separate routine that I have that can be inserted at different places. So like if I have on a normal day that there is the manga routine, so that would be the routine where I'm planning out what pages I want to draw for the day, I'm planning out the story, and then I'm actually doing the drawing. So if I have that penciled in on the day that we're going to do the manga routine in the late afternoon, but then I don't get to it because we're doing the journaling routine, or, I don't know, I'm watching some movie on YouTube and that totally eats up my afternoon because I just go from like one thing to the next, then I can be flexible enough to change that and take that out of the routine for the day. And I'm not going to beat myself up because of the ADHD, so that you don't get locked in and make it overly stressful. Because I find sometimes if the routine is too strict and there's too many things going on in the day, that I'm not going to do it, and it's going to be affected, and it's not going to flow right. So having a routine allows you to be regulated and more organized, which is very helpful for ADHD, because a part of ADHD is having issues with organization and working memory. So where I can remember something from 5-10 years ago with every single detail, and like what happened on Tuesday when it was raining and there was a daisy outside and somebody had an alarm and I saw a black cat and there was a green shoe discarded in the middle of the street, because, someone had left it and it fell out of the window of a car, then I can remember that to like extreme. But if you ask me what I did 30 seconds ago, I won't be able to remember that. And that's your working memory with ADHD. And so that's why when I have the routines, I write them down on my board so that I can follow them. And like I said, I don't do anything or talk about anything that I'm not doing myself. So we're actually going to be creating some of our routines today. And I'm going to go through a little bit on some of that. So, make sure that you understand the pace of the day, and I call it the sync. And so the sync is how fast or how slow is your day moving, and like what are you going to be doing for the day. So if it's a weekend, I don't have day program, okay? And so I don't have that day program chunk routine inserted into that day because it's a Saturday and I'm not doing day program on that day, okay? Or I don't have manga drawing on this day and I have journaling instead, because the routines are different pieces that I can arrange kind of like Tetris. I can add them and move them depending on what I need to do at any given time, and that makes it a lot easier and flexible. So if I have a routine that I put there that I want to do, so say I have journaling as a routine and I'm going to spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes doing the whole journaling thing. So I'm going to sit down, I'm going to get the pen, I'm going to get the whatever pencils or colors, or if I'm going to draw a picture in the journal, and I have all that and I get situated and ready to do that. But then I come up with, well, I don't want to do that and I'd rather do the laundry. Then I can pluck out that journaling routine and put the laundry routine in there, and so that way I can be flexible, so I can honor my ADHD while also honoring my autism and having that routine plug and play like that. And that's what I call the sync and the pace of the day. So what you want to do also is have a start day and an end day routine. And so your end of day routine is going to be like if you have to take medication at night, getting ready for bed, things like that, brushing your teeth, things like that, getting dressed to go to bed, things like that, and that is at the end of the day. And then you'll also have your start of the day routine, okay? And like I said, with the day program, that would include the day program call at the beginning of the day after the alarm goes off, and so that would be part of the morning routine. And so your start of the day routine would be brushing your teeth, taking a shower, getting dressed, doing your hair, all that kind of stuff, and that would start before the day program routine, which would include getting to the day program and starting that. And so you can block the different times depending on where they need to go based on that, and you can have that flexibility so it's not a time-based routine. So say you have 30 to 45 minutes for journaling, but then you end up journaling for 2 hours. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to push down another routine that comes after that, or move it around depending on the amount of time that your ADHD ate up doing something that you really love doing. But you're not going to be time locked, and so if your journaling starts at 4 o'clock and it goes till 6, but it's only supposed to go to 4:30, well, then you're not screwed up with your times, which can cause stress and cause you to get anxious and have anxiety because you're off your routine. And that allows for the flexibility of the ADHD, as well as allows the routine to help with the autism. And so then in the day, you have these interim routines, and that is how you put your day together, that you stack the routines. So you'd have a start, you'd have different set points during the day with those smaller routines, so you'd have your start of the day routine, your day program routine, your journaling routine, your video game routine, or your fun routine, I would call it, your manga writing routine, your dinner routine, your lunch routine, and then you'd have your end of the day, before you go to bed routine. And so that would be, how that would work. So I would call the having fun, like playing video games or watching anime, I would call that the fun routine, and you can put that in different places during the day. And then you also have the work routine, the day program routine, and then you have different rest points. So if you want to have a routine for what you do when you rest, you could also determine the pace of your day, and that is what I call the sync. How fast is this day going to do? Now, I have learned on my whiteboards that if I have too many things to do on a whiteboard, it's going to get overwhelming and I'm not going to do it. So I can't have more than 4 or 5 things on the whiteboard to do in a day, okay? So even if I have 5 or 6 different routines, so start, day program, journaling, lunchtime, breakfast, dinner, fun, end of day, so that would be 6 or 7, I can still only have, on the number of things I need to do for the day, I can only have 4 or 5 things. Usually 4. 5 is a little much. I find that I get overwhelmed and I end up not doing any of them. Okay, so you have the routine so that you can meet your goals, and if you can plug and play the different routines and change the order of depending on how your energy is for the day and sync to that energy, then that can definitely help you. So I hope that this video helped talk about routines a little bit, especially for ADHD and autism, and how having that flexibility and the sync to determine the pace of your day and able to move things around if you need to can actually help you with routines. So they're not time-based, but they're based on flexibility and the ability to move them around, and you have your start and end routine, and then your other interim set points during the day that you can have a routine for those, and you can move those around. So I hope that helped you to talk a little bit about creating routines, because I will be doing that tonight, and I will have another video once I do that, and I will show you some of the steps in the routine that I create. Tonight, we'll probably record that tomorrow, because I should have at least a few routines by tomorrow. So, peace.